by a lot of religious talk. A lot of people, they go to Christmas, every Easter and every Christmas, and what they hear is sort of like the sounds made in a Peanuts cartoon that adults make. Wah, 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 Christmas, Christmas, wah, wah, Jesus, Jesus, wah, wah, wah. And then they go home. And what happens is these other parts of the Christmas story become key. The food. Love the food. I love the food too much. I just love the food way too much. And I just lost this again. For the family, I was always the one in the family always getting in trouble. I would have the stories that would cause people to be embarrassed and other people to laugh. I don't know which one in your family is there. The youngest one looks a little shifty to me, Joe, yours. But the problem is we miss the message. A viral video that's on the computer these days is a video of a preschool's Christmas gathering. Has anybody seen this one? It's the throwdown between the sheep and Mary. Two 6-year-olds. The 6-year-old sheep saw little baby Jesus, little girl sheep. Saw little baby Jesus in the manger, and she just loves dolls. And while they were singing Away in a Manger, the sheep decided to kidnap baby Jesus and have her own party off stage. So she walked up to the manger and grabbed baby Jesus. But she didn't get away with it, because Mary, 6-year-old Mary, who is a future key member of Homeland Security, knew that she shouldn't do that, and they started a tussle in the middle of the song. And Mary finally broke the silence and said, "Hey, you're not supposed to touch Jesus. Teacher said nobody's supposed to touch Jesus." And the place fell apart. Would have loved to have been there. The only thing I've ever witnessed is kids picking their nose and turned around looking the other way, stuff like that. But that would have been classic. But watching that, I'm thinking to myself, how often is that not the message in most of our churches throughout our entire life? Is we're not supposed to touch Jesus. That's for the minister to do, or the pastor, or the priest. They're the ones with the connections, and we just sort of attend. I need you to know that that's an absolute lie from the absolute pit of hell. Christmas is not about this story of a baby in some distant land that we never heard of, and a story that we don't even know is true. Listen to what the book of John says. "And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us." Let me give you a different translation. "And the Word became flesh and took his residence here." Let me give you another one. "And the Word became flesh and made his home among us." Let me give you my favorite one. "And the Word became flesh and moved into our neighborhood." Here's the story of Christmas. This unapproachable God, this God who is afar off and looks down at us sinful, silly people, decided that he loves us so much that he wants to enter into our individual lives. That he knows our names, that he knows where we hurt, that he cares so specifically and so much about each and every one of us. You never heard that before? You never heard that God knows the number of hairs on your head? That he knows when you stand up, he knows when you sit down, he knows when you come in, and he knows when you go out? That his very thoughts are first and foremost for you as an individual person? That's exactly the truth of Christmas. And we see this baby born in a manger. What we need to understand that his desire and his hope is that he can replicate that in each and every one of our individual lives. Let me give you probably the greatest illustration of that I've ever heard of. And that was, anybody remember Rocky and Bullwinkle? Anybody? You need to be a little bit older. Remember that? Do you remember that in Rocky and Bullwinkle they had fractured fairy tales? Anybody? Okay, we got one. I'll just talk to you then. Fractured fairy tales. A princess comes by a pond, and there's this frog. Ribbit. Hi, princess, how are you? And she goes, you're a frog. And the frog convinces her that if she kisses him, her life will change forever. And she bends down and she kisses the frog, and boom, it happened. She became a frog. Do you get it that that's what Jesus became, was a frog? That he took an image of us upon himself so that he could break the barrier between him and us? This whole gathering in a group to hear a holy man that can touch God is not the message of Christianity. The message of Christianity that God gave me to give you is, don't settle for me. Meet him yourself. The Bible puts it this way: I stand at the door and knock, and anybody who opens that door, I will come into them. And they will dine with me and I with them. In other words, I'll be their friend. I'll be present in their life. I will change their future, and I will give them hope. We've been kissed by the princess, and he has become one of us. I just mixed metaphors there, and I hope you forgive me. Last story. Young man with cerebral palsy in a church in Minnesota. If you know anything about cerebral palsy, it affects your nervous system, so you have no control. Most people think that people with cerebral palsy are mentally retarded. They are not. They are as there as any one of us. It's just that they have no control over a lot of their external functions. A lot of people have problems with people with cerebral palsy because it's uncomfortable to be around them at times. And you can't blame this church and the leaders of it because they don't know any better. So what had happened is this little boy had grown up in church, and he had to be treated different because he had cerebral palsy. Finally, a new lady took over the Christmas play and decided to give him a part. Years of not quite fitting in all of a sudden was going to change. And this little boy was given his chance. They didn't want to make him something that had to move around a lot because they didn't want to embarrass him, so they gave him the role of the innkeeper. So, the night came. Chairs were filled, everybody was waiting. Songs were sung, pastor turned it over, lights dimmed, and all of a sudden the angel appeared and talked to Mary. And the play progressed. It got to that pivotal scene. Mary and Joseph were walking down the center of aisle toward the inn. 3/4 of the way down, all of a sudden the door slammed open. Whoo! Every eye was on the place. Here comes this little boy out in his walker, and he goes, "Mary! Joseph! There you are! I've been expecting you! Come on in! We'll have a great time!" The entire place burst into applause. Laughter, joy was had. Here's the rub. Isn't it time enough to stop keeping Jesus out in the cold? Why isn't he involved in everything we do at Christmas? Why aren't we inviting him into our lives? Let's just not have him in a celebration. Let's have him every day. Because the true story of Christmas is this: God wants you to have Christmas every day, every moment of your life, because he seeks to be birthed in everything you do, because he wants to make it better. Jesus is available. He wants to move into your neighborhood. And if you let him, this is already the best Christmas ever. Let's not just be worshipers of him. Let us be those who walk with him. Amen? Stand up.